Ready? All right, well, good morning. Thank you for coming in. We have an announcement today. Today we're announcing that the Senate is going to hold a series of oversight hearings starting July 1 that are focused on the state and local responses following George Floyd's death. Senator Newman is going to lead this discussion. We'll have more details later about who the committee members are going to be and how many meetings we decide to have. But July 1st, Senator Newman will be leading. And we all witnessed the destruction of businesses, some in broad daylight with no police response. And the question was, who decided the looters would be allowed to do that? Just one example of me I went down there about 8 times. And there was one business owner that literally had looting beginning on Tuesday. George Floyd tragically died Monday. Looting began Tuesday, and they restocked their shelves thinking it'll be okay Wednesday. But suddenly the police weren't there Wednesday and everything was wiped out. And so who allowed that and why? We all witnessed the takeover of the 3rd precinct after the police had fled and then it was destroyed. Who ordered that stand down? We all heard the pleading of the public for anyone to tell them what the plan was with all of those fires burning across Minneapolis-St. Paul, including damage into the suburbs as well. Who was in charge? Those are some of the questions we want. This wasn't just about bricks and mortar. People's lives were at risk and crowds were unchecked. Who was responsible for allowing the risk to the public? And then there was a statue a week or so later that was ripped down from the Capitol. The governor was notified that it was going to happen, and they placed one person out there as the mob came in, and then that police officer went into the Capitol and they tore the statue down. Why did that happen? And why is there still no arrest when there were all kinds of footage related to that? I think the public demands answers, and that's why we want to hold these hearings. And also because if we wait too long, you begin to forget what happened and when. Even in my own mind, as I try to think about the chronology of each event, because there were so many day after day after day, and we just want to make sure that we get to the bottom of this. Now's the time to do it. And so that's what we're going to begin. It'll be July 1st, and Senator Newman and the committee that we put together will be approaching this. They will decide how many of these hearings we have. It'll depend on the questions that come forth. But I think it is very important that Minnesota have a chance to take a look at this before we forget what happened and why. And with that, I can take questions on that, and I'll be willing to answer a few others about other stuff as well.
Senator Gazelka, why is it important that the Senate take over this investigation as opposed to law enforcement or other groups who might look into these issues?
Yeah, the question is, why is the Senate doing this oversight instead of law enforcement or some other group? And that is one of the responsibilities of the Senate, is to provide oversight into the executive branch and the decisions made. And so we felt like it was our responsibility to do this. If you look at the George Floyd death, we have other people that are given oversight to that, the Human Rights Commission and the Attorney General. And so we're letting that process go forward on that end. But on this end, we feel like it's our responsibility. Esme.
It seems to me that the concern about the statue falling is something that's really pretty deep for you and for a number of other prominent Republicans. There seems to be just a less of a concern equating it as something that really was a very, very serious thing. Can you kind of go into that? What's the reaction to the statue that you were just talking about?
Well, I think the allowing of lawlessness to be how we remove things, I think, is what really has upset many people in Minnesota. I think I mentioned once, it doesn't really matter who the statue was for. We don't let a mob come in and tear it down. And it doesn't really matter who it is or what it is. We need conversations. We have processes about what stays, what goes. But the way it was handled and allowed to be done is just not the way we do things in Minnesota.
Do you have subpoena power for a Senate committee meeting if you just Like, who would you want to have testify? I presume the mayor, the police chief, the governor?
Yes, we can call people in, but I want Senator Newman, in the next few days, will lay out the process. We just wanted to let you know what was coming, but Senator Newman will decide who's coming, what they're going to talk about, and that's why I say, I know it will be more than one hearing, I just don't know how many. It really depends on what kind of information we learn.
What's been the reaction in your district to all of this? There's been a lot of talk about it. What do you hear?
Yeah, it was good to finish the special session. I wish we had accomplished more, and we're not giving up on some of the things that we did, but to let all the senators get out into their districts and hear the people of Minnesota. And in my district, I can tell you that they're very upset that some of these things are happening without any seemingly desire to stop it. And then I can tell you that they're very concerned that Minneapolis-St. Paul then would ask to be bailed out by the entire state. And so those are some interesting discussions that we're going to have moving forward. But they want to feel safe. They want to know that people are protected. And I think that's from Minneapolis-St. Paul to the suburbs, all the way out to Halleck and Carlstead. I think that's an issue that people care about.
Senator, do you anticipate that this investigation will look into George Floyd's death at all, or is that something that was a police department response? Or do you feel satisfied with the investigation going on there already?
Yeah, I think there's enough people looking at the actual death of George Floyd and the city of Minneapolis and the Minneapolis Police Department that we don't need to spend time in that direction. I think there will be enough. As I mentioned, the Department of Human Rights is looking at that. So is the Attorney General. So I think we're fine there. Nobody's talking about what went wrong in the steps that happened from the death of George Floyd forward. And we just want to make sure we document and ask the questions, because it just, the death of George Floyd was Monday. There was some looting Tuesday. By Wednesday, there was extreme violence. By Thursday, you had the precinct destroyed and many other buildings destroyed. By Friday, you had the Wells Fargo destroyed, a post office, and more. And the National Guard did not come in full force until Saturday. We didn't enforce the curfew till Saturday. And so what was the reasoning behind that, and why? The end result was there's over 1,000 buildings that are either destroyed or vandalized, over $500 million of damage, and that's a huge cost and problem for everybody, and it affects all of us, and we want to know why it happened the way it did.
Are conversations ongoing between legislative leaders and the governor in terms of police reform that sort of got held up at the last minute during the special session?
Yeah, so the question is, are there conversations between the legislative branch and the governor? At this point, I can tell you there's conversations between myself and the speaker about the police accountability, and is there a way we can get to a product that we both agree in. I will tell you, going forward, I'm going to make sure that we sign an agreement that we all agree, that there's no misunderstanding about how the end will finish.
Is there any agreement or continued work happening on the bonding bill?
So the question is there any continued work on the bonding bill? They've never stopped working on the bonding bill. The chair of each, the House and Senate, have been working on that. I believe we'll get to a product that we could support in the future, and so we're not giving up on that one either.
Is that one, though, that you would like an agreement all worked out before a special session, or is that something that would perhaps happen mid-July if the governor renews his emergency orders?
Yeah.
And you called in?
Yeah, and so at the end of session, I said, I'm willing to come back to another special session as long as there is an agreement ahead of time. We've signed what we're going to do. So that's why we continue to work on the things that we disagreed at the end of session. The governor could take the $841 million that we passed in local government aid to communities throughout the state of Minnesota and just release that money as we passed and that we agreed on in the House and Senate. But we'll see. If not, we'll do that if we come back as well. Esme?
Who's tension between the Twin Cities proper and greater Minnesota? But it appears to me that that tension, that rift, the disagreement, the fundamental philosophies have never seemed more profound than they are right now. Can you address that?
Yeah, I think, Minnesota is rural, suburban, and metro, and we have to figure out how to work together. I'm from rural, and so I do hear some of those issues that are frustrating to people, say, in Staples or places like that, but we still have to figure out how to work together, and so that is my commitment as leaders, that we will figure out how to listen to all the voices, and my commitment is to continue to work with the speaker, and what we agree with the governor, we can still move forward.
Is it worse now than it has been at other times? More profound?
Yeah, I don't know if it's worse now or not. What I would say is there's more tension in general. The last week of session, special session was more intense and stressful and division than I've seen in my 4 years as leader, which is part of the reason I thought it would be wise for us to just take some time away, listen to the people in our communities, and then come back and solve some of the problems we couldn't quite get to.
Senator, I have a couple of questions from other reporters.
Okay.
Peter Callahan is wondering if DFL members will be a part of this committee, or part of these hearings?
Yes. Yep.
And then another question from Brian Bax. We expect today that the governor is going to announce COVID aid money is moving to counties and cities. Any reaction on how this is taking place, and is it positive that the money is going out?
Well, assuming he releases it the way the House and Senate agreed to, that would be positive. We thought that $841 million of the federal money should go out. He initially wanted 600-something million, so you'll know if I'm happy or not based on the number. But it is important that our local communities get that. As a result of shutting everything down and businesses not being able to pay taxes and do all the things they do, all of our local governments are hurting right now. So,
How many members on the committee?
could you repeat that?
I'm sorry. How big is the committee? How many members?
We haven't decided yet. Yeah, last question.
Is it, have you decided when the committee would meet? I'm sorry if you've already said.
July 1st is the first meeting. I don't think we've had a time of day set. Senator Newman will be announcing the details in the next few days.
And
So.
have you heard about when a special session might be?
Well, assume if the governor wants to continue his emergency powers, the latest it would be is July 12th. And we will continue to say that we need to get rid of the emergency powers. There is no emergency anymore. But he must call us back at that point. So, and if we agreed we could do it earlier, and I would be open if we have an agreement, I would do it earlier. So, all right, thank you.